Welcome from Las Vegas, Nevada, the host city of NAB 2014. We're here on the 45th floor of the Trump International Hotel. This is Cinema5D on the couch, presented by B&H, the professionals source, Vitech Videocom, Tools on Air, and Zeiss.
Welcome to another episode of Cinema5D on the couch. Today we have Bruce, Logan, ASC, Jens Bogehegn.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yes, from Zacuto. Rodney Charters, ASC, and Steve Weiss. Not ASC, but Zacuto.
I'm an associate.
Oh,
ASC.
you are, yeah.
So is him.
Yeah. No letters.
Welcome,
No
guys.
letters after the name.
Damn it. That's right.
So we just, in the middle of NAB 2014, we just grabbed you from the booth. You're all tired. But still, let's stick to the topic. What's new at NAB? What's new from Zacuto?
You want to start? Here, I'll start. The thing that has been getting the most attention at the booth this year has been our Gratical, the new EVF. The Gratical HD is the one we have up and running right now. And I don't know, people seem to like it. What do you think?
No, it's beautiful. It's got a screen the same as the $10,000 Alexa viewfinder.
Yeah.
And it felt pretty comparable. It has a lot more information in the screen at the bottom than I get out of the ARRI. And you are planning all kinds of interfacing to a multitude of different cameras, which is also
Yeah,
exciting.
you'll be able to get the information out of most cameras. You know,
Lots of cameras don't bother to ship with an EVF, and frankly, I think without one, you can't really shoot.
Actually, you know
Bruce
what?
would, Bruce would have a different opinion.
Yeah, Bruce hates CVF. But you know something? Tim Smith was in the booth and he showed us how to get all of the camera info out of the HDMI and the SDI.
In the C300 and
On the
500.
C300.
Yeah.
So we're done.
Really, you can do it.
So that camera is
It's
set.
already got it on there.
Right.
But to explain yourself. You don't like going into that world in there and
No.
disappearing?
No, I like the monitor. You know, and it's usually the bigger the better. You know, if I had a 19-inch monitor
But you
like
have a
sitting right
focus
next
puller.
to me, you know.
You have a focus puller.
Yeah, but I'm concerned about the quality of the whole image. You know,
Yeah, but look
and
at
you
it.
know the focus
Tiny
pullers
scan.
that I work with these days, I have to say that they're looking at the monitor and they're pulling off the monitor, and it's like so they're always going to be delayed. You know,
Yes, they are.
so unless they're like sitting there and they know that guy's 7 feet away because they know that, you know, they're always going to be one step behind. You know? And it's kind of a style these days. It's nice to have, you know, for like a sizzle reel or commercial things going in and out of focus. But you know, but for features, you know, like you got to nail it. You know.
Brings us to one of the interesting things we did see, which is the from Nova Scotia in Canada, the lads that had the, what is it called? The artist Andra. What is it? Andra.
I think it's Android, yeah.
I didn't get to see it.
It's a fully automatic focusing system based on a magnetic tab that you carry on an actor's person. You can calculate the offset, so you can hold it up to the eyes, and then they can put it on their person, hide it somewhere, and it very, very accurately tracks. You saw it, right?
I have not seen it yet.
No,
No lag or anything?
no, it's astoundingly accurate.
Really?
You think we'd have done that years
It
ago?
goes
That's kinda
it
brilliant.
goes out to I think 100, 300 feet. However, I have to say that it's Wi-Fi or it's RF rather, and they had terrible trouble in the hall, which as we all do with our cell phones. So they hardwired it. But I believe that they do have an effective system that works on radio.
I think you have to use this cube and just basically have a boom operator for this magnetic cube, and it has a range of 8 feet or something.
Well, no, it's much longer than that.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. It's radio frequency, so
We'll have it on the show
determined only
tomorrow,
by
so
that.
I'll ask him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they are seeking input because they don't quite know how to utilize it. People were saying, well, I'd like to have the box with the readout on my Preston, or whatever commotion
Don't
or
ask
C
Stephen
that I have.
Poster. He'll be pissed that his guys are going to be out of work.
No,
the
I
ACs.
get the idea of what is confusing to me, though, is the complexity of what suddenly the focus puller has to worry about.
Yeah.
Because the idea of racking becomes a big concern because you have to unlock the system to make a definitive rack. So if you tag somebody and come back up again, you need to have some ability to do that. But all of that was being discussed by the various focus pullers that were coming by.
I think you can define 2 magnetic points and then have just the remote follow focus limited between the 2.
Yeah, it gets more complicated than that when you like starting to set splits between people, and then you're listening to dialogue,
But
and
you can do multiple cameras. I mean, the biggest challenges we have is that we're always diagonally tracking against action, and someone's always moving. They don't ever move forward to you in a static plane. We're always diagonally making a move, and it just really complicates things. Even when you're follow focusing, there's always the latency. In our case, we're using a box, so I don't know what's like a millimeter or something. It's a very short time, but it is enough that they're always lagging behind fractionally. And I know what you're saying.
well, whenever you're reacting to an image rather than knowing where something is, you're always going to be late, even if there was no monitor lag.
Right.
You can't take away the human element. I think you
How are
need that
seeing
in
these
there still.
monitors during the day?
How am I seeing them?
The boys go into a little hood. They have their own little hoods, and they embed themselves in it. Frankly, from my point of view, I always get pin-sharp footage when I need it, and I'm satisfied with that. In extreme close-ups, they get there with enough satisfaction. It doesn't really irk me, because in most cases we may cut to it late anyhow. But when I need the shot, it's always pin-sharp. And I never really had that confidence, even with all the systems we had on film. It was never that accurate. And we had the Ward Sniper, which was great on long lenses. And I would find that this is probably very good on, say, the Panavision 3:1 at 420, or even with a 1.4 on it at 600 mil. Those are the times when it really irks me that we don't maintain constancy. And this thing does do that very, very well. It's pretty amazing.
I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That's
besides anything that we have, what else did you like at the show? What
I
caught your
I
attention?
fell in love on the Blackmagic booth, and you're going to laugh at this, but you'll understand. They opened the doors on this device that I saw on the wall, and it's about this deep, and it was a rank Cinetel, re-envisaged by Blackmagic with a Thunderbolt port, Thunderbolt 2 out
So
the
it's a
back,
scanner, right?
that goes
Yeah,
straight,
right, yeah.
and on the machine was 4,000 feet of negative rolling through. And it's the first time I've actually seen film, maybe in 10 years, I swear to God. I mean, like, since 24 finished, I haven't had film go through a gate.
Right.
And we all listened to the film and closed the door and opened it again.
Did you smell
Well, it had been well processed, so we didn't have that new emulsion smell. But it was beautiful to see the images flickering through the gate. And I thought, wow, someone's going to make a lot of money at this, because for $29,000 for the Cinetel, which used to be, what, $500,000?
Yeah.
Maybe more.
Yeah.
And their $2,000 rack 4K recorder, solid state recorder, you're in business transferring 35 mil masters straight to 4K. And there's going to be a market for that. Although I have a big problem with 4K, so film might be resurrected. I could see them going back to 24 and being able to advertise the 4K version and getting new life out of all those people who feel that they have to see 4K. I don't mind in the case of that, because the film original and the resolutions that we worked at and the speed and the high speed of the film and the amount of grain, I don't think it's going to affect it that much. But I may be wrong.
Well, on 4K, the stuff that we did for the ICAS test that the ASC did with all the 4K, the only place I could really see it was when I was like really close up to the screen.
Yeah.
And then you really could see a difference.
There
Wanna get into your problem with 4K?
Yeah, there are two trains of thought. I mean, I have a 73-year-old lead actress. HD terrifies her. And
Right.
I immediately put on, I'm using a Hollywood Glimmer, and effectively reducing the resolution of my image capture to about a K, 1K.
Right.
Really. Wouldn't you agree, realistically?
Yeah, I mean,
It's like a black dot. It's a heavy, I go up to a 1 and sometimes almost a 2 with her in a big close-up.
But for me, there are so many ways to do that in post now. That like just on faces, just isolating the faces.
My
and
post
doing
guys,
that. And then you can leave the left, the rest of the image.
but let me tell you, my
don't have to
post
pay
guys
money
tell
for
me
that.
now that every TV show they're doing is spending at least $20,000 on both the men and particularly the women doing touch-up, Photoshop restoration in post, under the eyes, a little bit of
Even in 2K?
in 2K.
Yeah.
And he's talking to me about that, and I'm thinking, okay, so they're now challenged by doing 4K. There is no 4K monitor at a broadcast level right now. It doesn't exist. Sony threatens to ship one in August, I think.
Right.
But the post houses are already being encouraged to master to 4K. They're doing it in smoke. They can't use their normal engines, but they don't at the moment have a realistic way to analyze what they're doing.
Well, I certainly agree that like 4K is like, I'd much rather see more depth, more dynamic range than I would more resolution at
Yes.
this point.
Yes, I
Because,
think resolution is a manufactured. It's in Japan. The industries,
Is somebody calling into the show?
the government calls them together and says, for the sake of our Japaneseness, all of us manufacturers have to share making 4K the new standard.
I think you're never getting the camera again. You just said Japaneseness.
No, it's other people
now you have to use the red.
the Koreans have jumped on it as well. Anyone who makes a television, they want. But my belief is that the Dolby system, which magnifies the brightness range on a television hugely, is a much more impressive substitution for our HD 2K monitors. If you go into a display situation, you put a 4K monitor and a 2K monitor, most people can't tell the difference. And they're $4,500 for this and $600 for that. Why am I spending that money? It ain't gonna happen. Trust me. It's not going to happen.
Yeah,
everybody sits in a couch. They're not going to move the position.
It
They're
needs to
not
be
going
at
to
least
rearrange the
84
world.
inches large.
It
You need
is-
to be like
you
1.5
have to be
meters
1.5 times the height of the vertical space of the system you're looking at. You roll that back, and that's where you have to stand. And if you don't get 2 feet from a monitor that's 60 inches wide, you're not going to see 4K. Effectively not. It's just the math and the way our brains work.
No, I agree. You know, I have a 50-inch at home, 54-inch
Yeah.
or something, you know, and I sit far enough back from it that I can't really tell the difference between a Blu-ray and a DVD.
But what is
you know.
interesting is I also read something this week where guys are postulating that because the millenniums, all of those who grew up with digital worlds, children, they are youngsters, maybe they have kids now, they're in their 20s early, they are very happy to watch movies on a pad, on a laptop screen, and all of those can be made to 4K resolution much cheaper than the sets. And they postulate that that's probably where 4K will get its real finding in the future, is that people will want to watch these things on demand like this.
Well, how are they going to see 4K on an iPad?
Because the resolution on the screen is taken much higher than Retina, and Netflix is H.265 is piping 4K files. Now,
It's
heavily
highly
compressed. Understood.
James,
highly compressed.
up you talk.
Understood. But it's just, it's a little bit like, sadly, what Wally Pfister said this week, yesterday at the show, that Transcendence, his new movie, he loved the 4K file, the output spectacular, and then they put up the film print, and it was a completely different world. More, not resolution, but much greater subtlety in the colors, a much wider color gamut. It was a much more seriously satisfying experience. Probably that print will only be screened at the DGA for a select few. And it'll never be seen by the populace throughout the world because we no longer ship
I
film
know,
prints.
but he's the world's greatest film fan, you know. So you know?
But I get what he's saying. If we're only doing 10-bit 4K, am I wrong?
Yeah, well, less
Yes,
probably. You
probably
on
less.
broadcast, you know.
In my expectation, my Alexa's processing it's 16-bit inside the camera. Well, why aren't I outputting to 16-bit files when I go to my output? And I know from audio experience that when they made the jump from 16 to 24, there was a fundamental improvement in the quality of sound. And so probably we need 32-bit capture and output in color
and for bit depth and
to match film.
And contrast range, you know.
Yeah.
And you bring that thing up about the Dolby monitor. Now, I recently saw the laser projector demonstration that Dolby did.
Yes.
And I found that the high contrast worked much better in a theatrical situation than on the small screen. And for me, there were so many choices to be made on. You know, you have this massive dynamic range, and the highlights can be so bright and eye-popping that, you know, it puts the colorist in a whole different level because
Yes.
a lot of the time you still want that nice, smooth, low contrast look
There
to
definitely need to be 2 output files,
it. Right. but even making the choices for the TV set for me is like some of those highlights is just whoa, you know, I don't really, you know, it doesn't help me hear the story, you know, or see the story, you know, and so I'm the jury's still out for me on the super dynamic range monitors, you know.
Fundamentally, we're storytellers, and as Danny Eccleston, my gaffer, repeatedly says to me, Stanley Kubrick said, it's about performance and story. And that's the only reason we're here.
Well, and that's what I asked myself when we were talking about doing this show. What have I seen here at the show that's going to help me tell a story?
Yeah.
And
No, it's with it being too
One of our
sharp.
tripods.
One of you guys are making tripods now?
Like that, aren't you?
No,
tripods would definitely help me tell a
You
story
didn't show me a
because I wouldn't have
tripod.
to handhold that camera anymore.
You didn't show me, but I will come and
With
look.
eyepiece leveler, the whole
Oh,
bit.
no kidding.
Yeah, what about the tripods? Tell us about them.
I just did. There's 3 tripods and it has an eyepiece leveler.
Tripod.
But
No,
half
they're
the
nice.
people coming through the show don't even know what that is
I
anymore.
know, that was kind of weird. They're like, what's that wood box?
But then when they saw the EVF staying right where it should while panning the camera, they're like, "Whoa, you guys invented that?" I'm like,
Yeah, right.
"Yeah, it's been around for
I was
75
like,
years,
yeah.
but you know."
Yeah, I
Eyepiece
did.
level.
I did.
Oops.
Anyway,
But
not-
yeah,
but-
no, we have three new tripods, you know, that range from 12-pound payload to a 45-pound payload.
now you can tell your story properly.
I'll tell the 45.
Well, I always say, like, I have my little hierarchy list of what I'd rather put my money in.
Right.
And I think it starts like...
Script.
Yeah, script, actors, food. This is for an indie film.
Yeah.
Got to keep the crew.
Yeah.
Sound,
no, that's higher.
rehearsals.
Sound is higher than food.
Sound
Yeah,
could,
it should be.
sound should be higher than food,
Yeah.
but rehearsals.
That can be overrated.
Rehearsals are overrated.
I mean, you need a camera.
me.
I mean,
Well,
it's not important which camera, but you
Well,
need a camera.
camera comes no, but the gear comes around number 5 for me, because
You
you're
still
gonna
need
have
it.
something.
Yeah, you need something.
You need something, but I mean, these other things are where you really want to put your money.
A show with bad sound is worse than a show with bad picture.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's intolerable.
But there's no excuse for bad sound. You know, a couple $100 gets you a fine mic from Rode or one of the manufacturers, and all you need is a stick.
You have one here
Oh my
today.
God,
Yeah,
Rodney, I'm
right.
gonna fight you like
My
a
little,
dog on
my
that.
little.
Did they pay you for this?
No,
I'm gonna
but
fight
that's.
you like a dog.
Let me show you. I just bought it. It came out this week. The
No.
little red thing there.
I'm gonna disagree with you. You need a professional sound man.
I'm with you on
Not for
that.
his
Trust
iPhone.
me, I do. But
Yes,
But this
Rodney
is-
does.
this little device came out from
Oh,
Rode,
yes, now I
and
know
they
what you're talking about.
they don't have them at the show.
Cha-ching.
There's no battery in it. You simply plug it into the camera and it powers it. But the most important thing is they licensed this Lyra, as you call it, the Lyra,
Well, there's power
Design.
coming out of the
from
headphone jack?
Rycote.
Really?
This is Rycote's patented design. And it's far and away the best suspension for a microphone ever invented. It's indestructible, and you can do whatever you want. You won't hear it. And this is quite a lovely implementation of it. It just slides on the hot shoe. And
I love that they started cooperating with Rycote because
Oh, yeah.
all the sound guys always just threw away the Rode mounts
Yes.
and just got the Rycote in.
yes,
I don't
yes.
like those mics, man. 416s.
No, I agree with you, but the 416 is
Actually,
about this long.
this
I'm not
does
talking
away
about
with the
your
sound man,
iPhone.
doesn't it?
What's that?
This does away with the sound man.
No, it doesn't do
Completely,
away with the
you know?
sound man. Hey, I'm a firm believer in having a sound man because it's too much complexity, especially if you're starting to run a bunch of radios. and
A sound
everyone
man
has an ISO feed.
Is the DP of sound, man.
Yeah,
It is
yes, yes,
important.
yeah.
He's more important than you.
Yes, possibly. Possibly.
I'm sorry.
not radio. Come on.
If again, that's in bad sound. I can't.
It's true.
I
I mean,
can't sit
No.
through it. It's
You
intolerable.
can you can accept bad image, but you can't accept bad sound because you won't understand the story without sound. I mean,
Well,
it's
no,
like,
if it's scratchy and crackly, you can't sit there. You're just like, I can't take it anymore.
ADR, man.
All that matters is
lot of ADR.
that a relatively good microphone with a clean signal with no distortions or hums or anything goes straight to a digital file without overloading, right? And you're pristine.
The not overloading part is not taken for granted.
I understand that.
That takes a professional to know how to do that. I hear a lot of that over
But there is a whole creative thing to sound. That's
Oh,
like,
God,
you know,
yeah. I mean, sound
that's like,
design, yeah.
you know,
I mean,
well, not sound design.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm talking sound mixing.
Yeah.
But also booming, which is
Yeah.
but
the
you're
bane
putting
in
body
my life.
mics. You have body mics on every person too, right?
That's a network requirement. Everybody has
Right.
its own mic, but the boom is always what is favored
Yeah.
by the mixer, and you mix a little of the body mic. What's cool about this thing, and I hate to mercilessly
Man, you
plug
are
this.
just plugging this thing. It's
Well,
an
what the fuck?
iPhone thing.
It's so cheap. It's so cheap. This thing with this particular cable, it's a special cable, plugs into the iPhone, and running Rode software. I've had this thing run an hour and a half in double system, flawlessly in lock. That's insane
But what do you shoot?
for the phone. I was using a C300 and doing an interview with a bloke, and I plugged this in, and I used a good mic, and they have a little lav system that you plug in too. You can put it in the phone, but their software runs flawlessly, and it spits out essentially a time code file.
I hear you, but I mean, they make these little recorders now that are
I know.
dedicated for that,
I
and they're like
know.
$150.
I know.
What do you
Well,
do?
all I'm saying is,
What if a call comes in?
you actually in the software you can ask it not to accept anything, but.
I think when we were doing the iPhone for the great camera shooter, I think we had calls coming in, right?
Oh, you did?
You know, recording. in the
You did?
call. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're busy.
We're
right
shooting.
now. Did the caller ID show up on the screen?
Yeah.
Double system sound is the only way to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And that's all I'm saying is this will run independently of the camera in sync for pennies compared to what we used to pay for a system back when I started, as you remember.
And
in
is there
the
a
old
time
days.
code lock to your camera?
The camera's generating code, at least my 70D, I found that has a time
Well,
code
there's your
set up
iPhone.
on it.
Generated
This
code.
generates code that is can't be taken off on the file, but when you ask it and feed it into a sound, it can generate code based on this time of day clock.
And what's the audio? What is it? What
It's
bit?
a 48 kilohertz, 24-bit, and I think
Pretty
you don't really need any more for that for dialogue. It's perfect. I mean, that's what we use broadcast.
You said
wise.
double system sound is essential, but remember the project we worked on together, the
I know.
documentary? That was
yeah.
know.
We
didn't want to
had
bring that
problems.
out.
Yeah, we're trying not to bring that up.
Hey, the recorder had a complex menu structure, and I haven't done it for a long time.
Oh,
so
that's a-
whatever. We didn't really have a technician who
recorder has a
understood the
complex
system. That's
menu
all.
structure.
Let's change
It's not an Alexa.
No, but it is way more.
Let's
complex
talk
than that.
about Blackmagic or
yeah, what about the RC?
Resolve 11.
Or Resolve 11.
Yeah, Resolve 11 is looking
like it?
pretty good. Yeah,
It's got improvements, yeah.
it's got real improvements. It's there's a whole kind of tracking system where you can take whole sequences and give them kind of like you can operate on them individually. They, 9 and 10 has had like a track system or an individual clip system, but this has a system where you can take individual sequences and then give them overall corrections, and then back out of it and still work on individual shots.
Oh wow.
And then it has a thing where you get the Macbeth chart, and you bring it in, and you kind of slide this window over to the Macbeth chart, and it completely gives you a dynamite starting place
Oh wow.
based on the
Wow, wow,
Macbeth
wow.
chart on each individual
So we should
color,
all
you
be
know?
putting a Macbeth chart in every frame we shoot, basically.
Well, we should, and I never have, because I figure if I put a color chart in a scene, the timer's not going. He's just going to look at the chart and he's going to turn the well. I don't
That's
care
a
what it looks
starting
like.
place.
so-
That's really annoying when we go into a timing session and you don't have that starting place. That Macbeth chart, you can look at it, it's close, you got a starting place.
It was instant. The window. I said
But
they
even
should have had an
without that
automatic
thing-
window that just went done onto the chart.
Yeah, but even without it, it's
Right.
it's like color bars. You got to have a starting place.
You've
Nah.
had a beta for a while.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
No,
So-
I'm looking forward to it. And,
So that
and
was really
syncing.
great. Yeah.
On set, we're still using gamma and density, and it works for us. But I would like to be able to slide over to Resolve and comfortably sync on set and finish the dailies, because there's an extra person in our process that I don't think we need. I'd like to be able to generate all the dailies on set and give my DIT
Didn't you do
The
that
whole job.
on Shameless, though?
We did, essentially what we're doing now is we created LUTs for every shot, and then those files went to an overnight lab. Nowadays, we're doing the lab on the, just offset, and they've brought in a Cortex system, and they generate all the dailies. And actually, when I get home, sometimes the dailies are already there, so it's pretty amazing.
No, that's great. And what do you think of the Ursa?
The Ursa,
Yeah.
the 10-inch monitor fold-out screen is just absurd.
No, it's nice with the Z Finder though.
Well, you just leave it closed. I would rather take it off, have the ability to remove it completely so I could see the data screen,
Right.
which is behind it. You can also put the camera output onto that screen if you wish, and then have an EVF.
I just couldn't believe that someone's making a camera that big still. And
Well-
to me, when I saw it, I was expecting that something like the FS, 100 or something, size-wise. And when I saw that thing as big as an Alexa, I just kind of like...
The weird thing is they
you
use the same sensor as in the Blackmagic 4K, and they confirmed that. So it's
Yeah, but can you surf the web on it?
yeah, probably. You can post on Facebook.
The flip out, right?
Well, when you're waiting to do your shot, you can check your email.
But wait a minute.
I mean, as we speak, they just released 3 more cameras, I think.
Let me tell you that one of the
You're
big
gonna be in
problems
big
with
trouble
the Red
with that.
Epic, let me tell you about the Red Epic. The noise of the fans that kick in to cool that camera destroyed that camera's ability to work on professional sets. Am I wrong? It was so much of an imposition, intruding into the space that's being created by the director and his cast. He comes on the set to make an adjustment, and he can't talk to them because all he can hear is 2 hairdryers going off. That was a mistake, a substantial mistake that damaged that camera's reputation beyond belief. And it didn't matter what quality of pictures were. When people thought about its experience on set, it was a damaged experience. And
I didn't
what
get
I
that 'cause
think
I
about,
always use long lenses.
yeah, all right. Well, okay, but let me
Go
say
ahead.
that Blackmagic,
Right.
by contrast, have understood that the Alexa, a third of it is a Peltier chip and a cooling system, and they've done the same thing on their chip. It's very important that you maintain chip temperature within quarter of a degree temperature range. I think it's like 61 centigrade or something on the Alexa. And even on their new Amira, it's exactly the same spec. Even though it uses a different cooling system, that's paramount.
But that's
the
what's
first
giving
thing
it
is.
the size, right?
And so that's created somewhat of a larger box as a consequence. And whereas the Epic, and the Epic has not done that, and that's why it's smaller. It's basically as simple as that. Now,
But that makes that camera harder to balance on your shoulder anyway. if you're gonna use it, so
I don't think everybody thinks about a camera being automatically handheld. For some reason, a lot of people put cameras on tripods. Mine's been
I
most
do,
of
but
the
I
time
can
on
get it further
tripods
into a
now.
corner if it's a smaller camera.
I understand. I love the little pocket camera because I can put it inside a limo and shoot cross angles at the same time as I'm shooting down the length of the limo. It's amazing. And I probably could do that with a Canon, but the rig to support the weight would be so much more substantial that it would corrupt me from doing it.
So you use the pocket camera on Dallas?
Yeah,
So
extensively.
how do you deal with the very small sensor? And
The small sensor is an advantage. I don't necessarily connect the focus pull to it because that adds extra weight. In fact, the FITS unit is bigger than the bloody camera. It's ridiculous, right? So by the time you start adding all these extras, it turns me off wanting to use it. You use it because it's absolutely the tiniest capture engine that does a realistic 12-bit ProRes file.
That's how you're using it. I see images of this thing where it's got a lens this long and it's like a little postage stamp on the back.
If you need to shoot your whole drama and that's your only camera for $1,000, damn, it's not a bad deal. It really isn't. And Panasonic makes some great lenses for it. I think it's absurd to put big cinema lenses on it because then it's 3 times bigger than the actual original device. It's crazy.
I think you need to use that like it's made. It's a small camera. It's good for crashed use. It's good for what you're doing. I noticed I saw a shot somewhere where you drove over the thing.
Yeah.
You're
Well, you
sticking
can
it on
change the
windows.
lenses.
You back
I mean,
it in corners.
I use GoPros, but that field of view is sometimes not what you want, you know. And I know there are retrofits
The
for
shutter angle
lenses.
gives it away. Oh, there's a GoPro shot.
Yeah.
It's like,
But the Blackmagic has all of those controls. It doesn't have enough color controls in their software. It does 32 and it jumps to 45 and then 50. It's kind of doesn't. I like to be able to play the color, looking at the monitor and watch as we play around.
Right.
Or delete clips, format cards. That'd be
Well,
nice.
there's a software issue there.
I don't do that.
No, I think the camera would be nice if it actually formatted the card. That would be kind of helpful, but anyhow, that's another story.
Yeah. What about this camera grip that you announced? Zacuto?
Oh,
Hopefully we're going to have it tomorrow.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, it is coming tomorrow.
Do you know about the control grip?
You've told me that there's some kind of grip that allows you
Well,
to
he
do
just said
things.
there's no need to have a camera on your shoulder, so that became pointless now.
Bill.
But
What are we doing?
yeah, right, Rodney, that was ridiculous. Come on,
What?
some
What
shows
was
you just
ridiculous?
showed a whole show. The whole damn thing was more cameras were
Shameless
on
was
your
all
shoulder.
handheld.
Oh, it
shoulder.
was, yeah.
Oh, did you forget about that?
No. There are some shows where that's the intent, and then it works fantastically.
Well, when
and
there's documentary
and I'm
filmmakers,
sure
you know,
that
us.
Kevin's going to be working with an Elmira next year, because there are a lot of shows that the Rainbow Houses have said, he said, we're buying 30 cameras because everybody wants to swap them out.
All right.
Okay. For television, I get it. You know?
So this control grip, though, is sort
Yes.
of our answer to what, like the Cabrio style lens,
Uh-huh.
that if you balance the camera, it doesn't really work too well, at least not for us, because your
concept's wrong.
the balance is wrong, and you'd have to be grabbing around where your ear is.
Yep.
So we're moving that control down to a position to where you can you operate comfortably.
Okay.
You'll have camera control, you'll have the zoom control, and iris control if you want it.
Wow.
For what, $3,300 or
Something like that. But I mean, the idea is that the bigger issue is that, you know, from the beginning, it was one thing when we had a beta cam, you know, and your hand was about here and it was lower. And you had a recorder, a metal recorder in the back. So the whole thing just fit right.
It was balanced.
But now, and the other thing, the lens wasn't even remotely as heavy. How much does that damn lens weigh? It's heavy, you know. So
Heavier than the camera.
we built the thing about yay big, and it forced the thing back to here. Well, I mean, feel my arm here, man. It's so tense, you know, that it's unusable. The concept doesn't work. Yet, Zeiss, Ingenue, Canon are making them. We've had them all in our booth. We've showed them how the concept's flawed, and they're still making them.
You know what? It may work fairly well on an Amira, because that camera has more weight in the back.
No, we didn't like it when we saw it at
I mean,
IBC.
to me, it's still a little off.
And it's high. That's the other problem. These cameras are really top heavy.
Did you try the new AJA camera, the Scion? Because it's also it works quite well on the shoulder.
It does. I haven't seen it. How big and heavy is it?
It's another big camera. you know?
It's not small, yeah.
Alexa size?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a bit smaller. It's smaller.
But more particularly, the picture that they were showing from the upward of the chip was not saying anything.
And how are you viewing it? How are you framing shots with it? External monitor?
No, you need a viewfinder. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Well, was it a raw picture? Or?
I have no idea, but they had waveforms in presence, and they had a Kinoflow rig of a bunch of steel balls and some kind of little game contraption, and the chrome hits off the steel balls were redlining in the top of the
How was the roll-off?
display. Well, it was there, but it wasn't the satisfying image on the display
Was
either.
it that
I mean,
whole a video, or was it?
I don't know. Without a proper monitor that I knew, it was my monitor and I knew how it was set up, and we're putting an HD file in, I don't know. Yeah.
We
It's
gotta go
hard.
over
I
there
mean, you
tomorrow.
could test it, but I don't think it's ready for testing. I think it was kind of rushed in to show something.
Yeah, you couldn't change any of the settings, nothing. Yeah.
No, but they had an extensive array of supportive gear for it.
What do you think of this whole indie camera market now? It's like you're getting these small companies essentially. Somebody came up to us and said, "Are you guys going to make a camera?" And I'm like, "No way." You know, that market changes way too fast. No way. Don't even talk about it, Jens. We're not making a camera. But
It's called the Zamera then.
When
Yeah,
you
the
hear about
Zamra.
all these other problems, it makes you like, oh man, you know.
I don't want to make a camera.
I'm sure, when we did a presentation on ACES for the Producers Guild, they had a whole thing where it's like the Wild West of formats, and they had like 9.5 millimeter. They had like 5 or 6 different kinds of 35 millimeter film. It's like, I just want the digital age to get some standards,
Yeah, but I do
And,
find it
you know-
interesting that you know, we used to say that, oh wow, now everybody can get a camera and make a film, but now you can kind of say now all these companies can just develop a camera. And I think the future is going to be that they're going to create these open source boxes and you can really design and build your own camera.
Well, that's basically what Blackmagic have done. You can get the box without a chip in it.
Well, there is this company
Build
that
your
is
own camera.
building an open source camera.
Yeah, they are.
Apertures, they are doing this. I
And
mean, the modular
it's just a
concept.
box,
To
man.
what end?
What?
How does that help me tell a story? You know,
Well, of
like,
course.
you know,
I mean,
It's
again, we
harder
get back
tell
to
the
that.
story if the standards are all over the map. too.
right,
I mean,
exactly.
Well, I think the big room for innovation in cameras is software, because all these Japanese manufacturers were never really good in software. I mean, you know, like function-wise.
Well, they're not really good in camera design either, but go on.
But you know, software was never, they always hardware related, and you know, you could never, you just have apps on
We're never going to work in this town again.
The de facto standard is the de facto standard is ProRes. That's emerged as what networks and post houses and everyone
But I hear
handles.
it's not really being you know, serviced.
Well, the
And
fact
it's
that
and it's gonna
Sony
go
has had to
away,
make
you know.
a ProRes recorder for their 55 is, as far as that's concerned, that says it for me.
Right.
They couldn't move that camera until they started down that road.
I mean, if I want to grind on anybody, it would be. I think it would be Apple. You know,
Yeah.
that like sucked us all in, and then just
Went away.
spat
They
us
don't
out.
do
you know,
anything
like,
with it,
you know.
yeah.
It's not
I'm
further
just
developed anymore. Yeah.
Is ASUS taking hold though? I mean, is that
Yeah, I mean,
becoming-
there are more and more processes being done. I mean, more and more shows being done in ACES. You know, I mean, it's still, you know, it's kind of waiting for Moore's law to catch up, so that the increased data is not really a, you know, a factor anymore. But no, I think it's going to be a good system. You know, I'm still kind of flummoxed on a lot of these monitoring things. I saw this 3D no glasses TV thing today. You know, well, Dolby has one, and then I saw another one that, and apparently they have like 8 manufacturers on board that are going to, you know, use their system.
I'm doing a walk-off. I have a dinner appointment. You guys keep the conversation
wrap
going.
Should we wrap it up, or?
No, you guys can do whatever you want, but I committed to this, so I got to go. Here, I'm going to share.
What was I haven't had a chance to walk the show. What was the coolest? I mean, or was this year not that great?
Well, it's
Besides our booth, of
it's
course.
a social event for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't bombarded by 4K in a way that 3D in previous years did bombard you.
No, well, it's like everyone's got a camera, a movie,
Multiple movie
Do you
ratings.
think
Yeah.
there is an agreement now among manufacturers that 4K will be the next thing? Because with 3D they tried it.
It's not necessarily true, because HBO's giant test that they do every year, the camera that ended up being the most satisfying 4K was Alexa UpRes.
I've got to say that in the ICAST footage, all the 5D, I mean the 5K cameras and the 4K and the 3K coming down to 2K fared a lot worse than the HD cameras that were blown up to 2K.
Yeah.
It really did, and that just really amazed me, because it's like you would think with the oversampling coming down to 2K, but somehow it lost something
Well,
in the
because
translation.
they're compressed image storage.
So who's poised to
Formula.
benefit the
Codecs
most
are all
now?
compressed.
If
right?
everything is getting too sharp, is it the lens companies? Is it Tiffin, a filter company, that's going to now benefit from that, or have to?
Well,
I mean, you're talking about using what
I
kind of
like using
filtration,
really-
even in 2K?
And 25-year-old HR Anjanos too, because they're very satisfying for women.
Yeah.
I don't need all that resolution. I really don't. It gets in the way.
well, I think the resolution's good, but I think using old glass, you know, is like it's really a great way to go. You know,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not a great believer in filtration as such. You know, haven't really used any filters for
I-
like
I think
15 years. You
the
know,
new-
but, you know,
The new Zeiss lenses, the anamorphics,
right?
Too sharp?
I think so.
Yeah.
We had Zeiss sitting here yesterday.
Old Boku and that sort of distortion that was created in the design of those old Panaflex Type Cs, I suppose they were, that was so a part of everything that was done. Though a guy told me today that they're extensively using XTs in anamorphic mode with those anamorphic lenses from Arri. So all the features are wanting to go that way.
Wow.
I see an opportunity for Tiffin.
Yeah, you know,
you're not a filter guy, but-
no, I'm a post-filter guy. There's almost
I
nothing
would-
that
What do you
I
use?
can do.
Filters, we're using Hollywood Glimmer when we need to take care of the women. The rest of the time I try not to use anything.
And they don't have time
but I
money
use the
in
glass.
posts, right?
Well, yes, they do, and they can do an enormous amount if they choose to do that. But I'm not part of that process in the hands-on way. They send me
Right.
files.
Right.
I get to have input, but I'm not sitting there with a timer. The time's too short. I can't.
Right.
You know, we're generating
Well,
15
I think
episodes
I'm
a year.
surprised. You know, you said that they spend that much time, you know, in doing kind of photoshopping in the color bank. You know,
But
and-
that-
that's part of contractual with the cast nowadays.
right.
It is on
coming from that
features.
side,
They'll, an actress
So
will come and
at
say,
least that's getting done.
I want
you know?
250,000 in the budget for retouch work,
Wow.
you know,
Right.
because they're hitting 35 and they're suddenly beginning to notice. And
But you don't
as
have
you
the
know,
control
I
over it.
can't light that out. Not if I'm trying to do mood lighting.
No.
Right.
You know, if I got a basher right here the whole time, then fine. But that's like comedy, broad
Yeah.
comedy.
Right.
But if you're trying to do a little bit of mood and you cross light in any way, shape, or form, you're going to see these. You're going to see, you know, little tears off the edge here, off the edge here.
Right.
And, you know, the makeup and hair girls go crazy trying to get you to not play that game. You know, they want you to put bounces here and a big softbox here. And my favorite light for that is the gaff hair, the 400 watt gaff hair, which we have with tungsten bulbs now. And then on the 3 gaff hairs, there's an 1800 and a 4K. And the 1800, we have mercury and sodium and HMI and tungsten. So we can really play, and it's a big soft blow-up box that runs on a little fish tank. And that's a beautiful light. Psychologically, because the women now kind of say, oh, can I have the big ball, you know.
Right.
We make a lot of jokes about that, and now comes the big ball, and we... But
Right.
that's a nice, soft, round kind of feel for a woman. But any amount of down, cross, intrigue lighting, and you know, you may need to do some touch-up because you're going to start seeing under the eyes and so on.
That's one of the reasons why you don't like to use super sharp lenses, I guess.
The super sharp lenses take you into territory that, certainly for women, you really don't want to be there.
Right.
I can't imagine. I looked at those Leica lenses, the set in the case. I think they're $200,000 a set of 8.
Right.
And I can't imagine ever needing to use them on a show.
Get some super multis. You know.
With the old ones.
Right.
Yeah, they shot Magic City on that.
Yeah.
And that gave them a very definite Godfather kind of quality, just because this was 40-year-old glass.
Right. So, but in that way, I don't mind that the sensor goes to 4K. You know, I hope it doesn't go any further. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do.
But then there are
Like-
people already talking about 8 NHKs doing 8K experiments.
But I think the position of the lens companies is, I mean, we had Zeiss sitting here yesterday. They want to have technical perfection, which means the absolute perfect resolution at 4K. That's what they're after, because they say you can do everything in post. But I think part of the problem is that DPs are very often not involved in the whole post process,
No,
right?
and
so
I-
you lose control over your image.
I
so you
hate
try to
the
control
blow-ups
it
are the
while you're
worst
shooting.
thing you want to hear about. The editor said, "Oh, I just blew it up." I said, "Well, I didn't frame it that way. What are you doing,
Right.
screwing with my image?"
Yeah. So 4K also just gives them this possibility. That
The worst kind.
You can't contractually.
No, nobody's going to let you sign a
Well,
deal that you
I
can't
have
touch
to,
the
you know, I
image.
have to get on my soapbox a little bit about, you know, and I know you can't do this in TV,
Uh-huh.
but in the digital age, you know, I think the cinematographer's really lost all control over, you know, I mean, he can light, you know, and that's a great art form, you know, but he's lost all control over the image. And unless he takes that back and becomes his own colorist, I really believe that the, you know,
You
half,
bake it in on location.
half the work of the DPs
Yeah.
is afterwards.
That's
You
why.
know, and that's not sitting next to, you know, Stefan, you know,
no.
giving the look. That's him actually doing the work, you know.
Yeah. Is there a budget in your productions that you work on for you sitting there with the colorist?
No, and that's the
Very,
problem,
very
you
hard
know?
to
Yeah.
negotiate that. Probably only a small handful of DPs that are able to pull that off.
Right.
But you both
But
are trying
what
to bake
has
it in on
happened?
location, aren't
Yes,
you?
exactly. What is happening now, and I think Stephen could speak to that, where he has 3 sets of colorists essentially on
Global?
set with him. Yeah, There's an on-camera guy that's right beside him the whole time. There's someone doing the dailies, and then they have an overnight guy who takes care of all the dailies that they screen every day on a digital in a digital
I don't
theater.
get those kind of budgets, but yeah.
No, but I understand what you're
Right.
saying. But I can
Right.
go halfway there by saying I have to have a colorist on set. He's my guy. He works for me. He sets my LUTs. He defines the look of every scene, and we then stamp that into the dailies.
Right.
Now, whether or not he produces the dailies or someone else does, guided by those. But then I have a guy who will take, I'll say, I want this to be really quite blue, this scene. We're going to time it. Then I crank up to 9,000 Kelvin or something, whatever, and play. And then he just ignores the LUT. And I'm saying, dude, I've looked at these dailies. You're going to redo them because that's not what, oh, I didn't think you meant, are you kidding me? That's what the LUT is. So, and he's my guy. And he can still make those kind of errors. So it's, unless you do it, you're right, yourself on the set, and you put a stamp on it. And they can't change it unless they call you up and say, hey, we know that you color set this to 6,500 Kelvin, but we would like it to be something different. Do we have your permission to change it? Give us the code or whatever.
Well,
It's
I have to say this, and that's why I was so amazed with this thing in Resolve 11
Yeah.
with the Macbeth chart.
Yes.
Because you do have control over how you shoot the Macbeth.
Yeah, you can cheat the
You
Macbeth any which
you
way
can
you
bring
want.
it into whatever kind of light you want, and that does give you a new tool, because for somebody else to be able to zoom right into that chart and pull all the information off it and give an instant color correction.
Well, in an
It's
ideal world,
amazing.
people look at your whatever the editorial was working with. But in fact, we know that a colorist will start from scratch with raw files.
Right.
So it's really great to say, okay, check the Macbeth.
Right.
That was my intention. Of course, by the time he's looking at cut footage, the Macbeth is long gone.
Right.
So that's.
But he's usually
That's a
looking at a
challenge.
reference movie, and if it's been cut with with HD dailies, whatever, and they're in good shape, then he's going to go back to that reference movie and.
The worst experience I heard of that, Roger Deakins told me that, what was that movie he did in Romania that was a Civil War picture?
Oh, Cold Mountain? No.
How long ago?
5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Was it Cold Mountain?
No. Well, yeah, was it Cold Mountain? Maybe. Anyhow, the movie opens in this giant battle, and there's a big pit where there's a lot of killing goes on.
Right.
And when the dailies were timed, they were mistimed by the dailies guy. It was a film shoot, and the prints were quite bright. And they cut it, and they were happy with it. The lock picture, they gave it to him. He went in the timing suite and put it back where he meant it to be. And they came back to him and said, you can't do that because now we can't see the faces. And we cut this based on the fact that we could see expressions on faces, and you sent everybody back into a silhouette, which was his intention all the time, but it never got conveyed to the director and the editor.
Well, people, I find people get used to the way that they fall in love with their cut.
Totally.
And that goes for the color.
Yeah.
And they get used to seeing that, and it may not be what you intended, but they get used to it. And then when they see something else, they freak out.
Oh, yeah.
Even seeing some of the raw. I mean, I've had people that get comfortable with how the raw looks.
Well, you see so many commercials now that are like
Pasty.
yes.
That's funny, because
it's
I
raw,
noticed the same thing. I mean, I have clients demanding the C-log of the C300.
Right.
Like
Oh,
they
we
want
love
to,
that one.
and I shot a commercial a few months ago. They aired it like this, with no correction on it.
Wow.
And it's the same as it started out with the 5D. This typical, like even the rolling shutter look. It kind of found its way into advertising. It's
Right.
like
Yeah.
That's in a study.
very
It
odd.
might work some
Like
places, but
don't use a rig, just a camera like this, which is a mistake. But people got used to it, and now they
Right.
want it. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's very odd.
Yeah.
All right,
Well, I got to run.
should we ready
Okay,
to wrap it
yeah.
up?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Thanks
you.
for this. This was great, and hope we do this again and have a
Okay.
nice show.
Great. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and thanks to our sponsors as well. First and foremost, B&H, who supplied us with all the equipment that we're using here. Zeiss and Vitek Videocom and Tools on Air. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode of On the Couch.